we know her and we love her, and she is doing great work for civil rights. And we, unfortunately, in the next year and coming, we're going to have to be looking to the kinds of things that she's doing. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that we didn't have to report that we have a president that doesn't respect the law and a president who speaks out against people, but that's the reality where we're at. So, she's here, and we're going to hear from her. Yolanda Melville, Esquire.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's just me, Yolanda. It's just me. I'll tell you a personal story. I had a friend of mine. Many of you know I didn't grow up here, but I spent my professional life here right after law school. I came here and the city adopted me. And a friend of mine came in this weekend, his family, because everybody has family in Atlantic City, it seems.
Well,
Told me his family owns property on Ohio Avenue. And it was his first time in Atlantic City ever since he was little. And he called me and he asked me for advice. He said, I don't know how far away you live or where you live exactly, but you can help me out. And it made me think that in telling him the story about Atlantic City, I told him about you. I told him about this branch. I told him about the history. I told him about Chicken Bone Beach. I told him, you know, what he was seeing just from his like kind of eye coming in. He lives in North Carolina. That this city has so much more to offer than he realized. And he left. He's left. He's now gone. Plans to come back, keep the family in his, and keep the house of his family. But said thank you. And I sent him to my local councilman. He's in his ward, right? And he said thank you because I didn't know. I didn't know. And why I tell you that story is I tell the story of Atlantic City everywhere I go. Because yes, this lovely banner sits here, but it is this branch in this city who taught me what it was to give concierge community service. Right? And so I'm telling you the story about what this agency does now, back 1945, 80 years ago. But I'm also hoping that when you look at me and you look at the world ahead of you and some of the things that President Shabazz mentioned about Donald Trump, I'll say this. When I was asked to take this role, I understood my assignment. It is not easy to take a role with civil rights in the name of it and think that somehow this is going to be a cakewalk. It's not easy to wake up every day when people are suffering and you have civil rights and director on the door. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of an update as to what we're doing, what we've been doing, a little bit of the history of the division if you don't know about them. But I was introduced to the division. Oh, I guess you do it here?
Yeah.
I'm not tech savvy like that.
You go up, yeah.
Go up?
Swipe up, yeah.
Swipe up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Oh, that's nice.
okay.
Look at that. The state doesn't have equipment like this, I'll tell you that. Tell you a little bit about the Division on Civil Rights, some of the laws we protect, who we are, what we do, and how to get to us. And what I love most about meetings like this one today is that when I look around this room, I'm always uplifted because the people who are talking to you are giving you real information, truthful information. And that's how it should always be. You should always look at state leadership and leaders like us around the country to give you the real. And when you ask a question, to give you an answer. So who are we? The New Jersey Division on Civil Rights was created in 1945, April 16th, to celebrate its 80th year in existence. Its mission is to prevent and eliminate bias, prejudice, and discrimination. We actually enforce 3 different state laws. The New Jersey Law Against Discrimination, called the LAD, the Fair Chance in Housing Act, which was enacted in 2021, and the Family Leave Act, that has to do with pregnancy and leave related to parental rights. People don't know, including me, I didn't know, that when we were created in 1945, we had 2 charges. One is to investigate discrimination and to eliminate it by furthering goodwill. We're supposed to, 1, investigate, but also provide information to the community. We're supposed to do this. We are mandated by law to come out here and talk to you about what the Division on Civil Rights does. We have 5 units: the Investigations Unit, the Affirmative Enforcement Unit, Policy Unit, Community Relations Unit, and the Education and Training Unit. I'll tell you a little bit more about those later. We enforce the law very broadly. We were created in 1945, and that means we're 19 years ahead of the federal civil rights laws that you know. So here we are in New Jersey setting the groundwork for what civil rights laws look like, and we continue to be the most robust anti-discrimination law in the country. So what does that mean? When other states are looking at civil rights actions, they come to New Jersey to confer with us, to ask us for advice, and to ask us how we do things. We actually do it in a number of ways. I mentioned the Investigations Unit, which is a complaint comes in, we investigate it. But we also sue as well, which is called the Affirmative Enforcement Unit, and I'll tell you more about them later. We are in employment, housing and real estate, and also places of public accommodation, and I'll explain what those are in a minute. These are all of our protected categories. Actual or perceived discrimination. So you don't actually have to be, it can be the perception that something about you, your race, your gender identity, your military status, cause you to be discriminated against. We have some new ones. Genetic information in AI. Lawful source of income. Does anybody know what that is? Source of lawful income, lawful source of income. Do you know what that means? Anybody? Anybody know what that means?
My paycheck.
Sure. Maybe someone who doesn't have a paycheck. Section 8. If someone comes in with a Section 8 voucher to a person, to a housing provider, and they say, I have a Section 8 voucher, you cannot discriminate against them. You can't say, I do not rent to Section 8, to Section 8 recipients. If that happens, you come to us. If someone has an emotional support animal, and they are not provided a place of residence because of a pet policy, that's unlawful. That's the Division on Civil Rights. So, because it's a disability. Places of public accommodation are all of these things. Hotels, motels, hospitals, governmental offices, colleges and universities. We protect in all these places. Police departments. More on that later. So what do? We investigate bias incidents. A bias incident is any action, perceived or actual, that affects any one of these categories. That's a bias incident. We are the civil side of the discrimination investigation team. What is an example? Name calling, offensive language, inappropriate gestures. We've seen some incidents locally, people spraying swastikas. We had a Zoom bombing incident, Khalim and I, a few years ago. And then we also have bias crimes. Bias crimes are our sister issues. They are investigated by the Division of Criminal Justice, the county prosecutor, to Prosecutor Reynolds, and local police departments, so Chief Sarkos. When bias incidents come to us, bias crimes come to them. What ends up happening, however, is once a bias crime is investigated and it's determined that it is not a criminal offense, we pick up the charge to investigate as a bias incident. So it's not over. Someone comes in, they come in and make a complaint. So this is good to know. Not all bias incidents are bias crimes, but all bias crimes are bias incidents. Again, we start as a bias incident. It can be viewed and looked at to determine whether there's criminality, and if not, it comes to us as a civil complaint. But every bias crime starts as a bias incident. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going fast. It's clear? Okay, it's clear. All right, so again, as I mentioned, we are the civil investigation side of the law enforcement. So we address places of public accommodation, housing, and employment with regard to bias incidents. If there is a bias crime that happens, your criminal prosecution team, local prosecutor, Division of Criminal Justice, they take over. So this is where you find us. Has anybody ever seen this portal? I put it on the screen because I want you to know the real place to do it. bias.njcivilrights.gov. That comes to my team immediately. You file a complaint with our office, and it can be done through our portal. This was developed in 2019, actually before COVID, but we've now used it since COVID has come. People are more online. Before that, people used to come to our 4 offices. I have an office right here in Atlantic City on 1601. We have offices in Newark.
1601 what street?
In your Atlantic Avenue, in your ward, yes. See what my council. Yes, indeed. My office is there, and they came into our offices to file complaints, and you can still do that. But most people choose to either call our portals, call our portal online, or call our phone numbers directly, and I'll give you that information here shortly. But it comes directly to my intake team, and I see everything as it comes in. So, what does that mean when you get to the end of an investigation and you get something called a finding? That's what it's called in my world, a finding of probable cause or a finding of no probable cause. A finding of probable cause means we determine that discrimination has occurred. But that's actually not the end of the investigation. You get a finding with my name on it, I sign it, and I say, here, thank you so much for, here's your investigation, here's what we found, and we determine at the end of it that we found that someone is liable under our statutes, the Law Against Discrimination, Family Leave Act, or the Fair Chance of Housing Act. After that, I have another team who takes it over, and we determine what that liability looks like. It can be civil penalties, it could be trainings, it could be some kind of remediation that happens, but that is not the end of the case. A finding of no probable cause means we determine no discrimination has occurred. The case is then final and closed. So if you ask me about things that you hear on the internet or see on the internet and they're currently open, I will tell you, yes, we had a finding, but we can't talk about it because it's still in investigation. So here are some examples. I'll read it for the people in the back. An employer subjected an employee to a hostile work environment based on the individual's religion and sex and discharged the person in retaliation for those protected characteristics. That falls under us. A housing provider ignored a tenant's medically documented need for emotional support animals, imposed a fine, and tried to have the tenant evicted for the animal, pursuant to the pet policy. That's discrimination in the housing section. A mental health provider failed to accommodate a person with hearing loss who needs sign language. We also, because we are part of the places of public accommodation, if a complainant or respondent comes in, we have to give them an accommodation. So we've even had mediations ourselves where we've had to have interpreters come in, and you see us actually trying to do the right thing, even within state government. So, how do you find us? Here's our website. We're going through a transition right now, so the website's down sometimes, not our fault. But that is our website. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. And here's the phone line. And it's during business hours, it's 100% operated by a live person on the phone. If not, there is a call service, and we answer the phone and those messages within 24 hours. And you can always, of course, email us and our community relations team. Write that down. So, we've been busy. What have we been doing? So just this month, many of you may have heard that we issued a finding of probable cause against the Mount Laurel Police Department. That was one of the biggest cases that came out in the last week or so. And that case comes out of 2021. In fact, I was here part of this branch when I got the call to find the other NAACP members who were in Mount Laurel. And so I provided the Division on Civil Rights their contact information. And what we learned from this case, and we've watched it over many, many years, we are all civil rights advocates, is that we had members of a condo complex, homeowners, who were members of an HOA board, who one of their HOA fellow members was escalating in threats that were racially charged. At that time, the Mount Laurel Police Department took the complaints but did nothing. And finally, it got to a point in July where it got so egregious that the person, Matthews is his name, was arrested finally and charged. But it took 40 incidents to be recorded before somebody did something. So that was July of 2021. The prosecutor's office looked at it, they made their own determinations, but we were hanging in the balance, waiting. And it took us 4 years, and it's a 39-page opinion that talks about what happened to those residents of color. And what I reminded my team is that there's always a lesson. What happened in Mount Laurel? Does anybody remember 50 years ago what happened in Mount Laurel? Mount Laurel,
The real estate
that's
housing,
right.
yeah.
Mount Laurel is the reason why we had the Fair Housing Act. It should not be, as civil rights advocates, that we don't know that about our communities. So 50 years later, we issued this decision after 1975's determination that the residents of Mount Laurel were being moved out. That here we are issuing this. And so it's not over yet. But I wanted to just let you all know, as a student of civil rights, I also educate my team on the importance that they do every day. In June 2025, the primary, we launched a voter protection initiative. So a place of public accommodation is a voting location. So if you come into a voting location and there's something that someone does to discriminate against you, you can file a complaint with the Division on Civil Rights. And I have a team who sits all the 16 hours of the day that the voting locations are open, including the early voting period, waiting to hear whether or not polling locations are conducting electioneering or anything that's discriminatory against voters. And then here are some others. We announced in January 2025 the creation of the Civil Rights Innovation Lab. What does that mean? More and more, we are utilizing AI, artificial intelligence, to automatically screen people from job opportunities, housing opportunities, and other aspects of our daily lives. So we're looking at AI to determine whether there's certain information being input at the onset that creates discrimination against people. Criminal history is one. So we are looking at that. So when I tell you that we are a small but mighty state, we are just that. And when I tell you this is a small but mighty branch, it is. So I just want to let you know a little bit more about what we're doing here, the Division on Civil Rights, but you always know where to get me. I'm a member of this branch. And of course I can't comment on ongoing investigations, litigation, but if you ever need us, if I can't answer it, somebody in my team will. So, have any questions? Let me know.